Good afternoon or good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again to the next session, which is a very exciting panel discussion. And this is the last panel discussion of this conference. The theme of the panel is what are the measures to facilitate affordable training and development of skilled young aviation professionals in Africa. Our panelists will discuss the aspect of accessibility of professional aviation schooling in Africa to support the growing economic needs of the continent. They'll also discuss the issue of financing. So what are the finance options available and how can young aviation professionals access this funding? They'll also discuss the aspect of employment. What are the means, what are the ideas that we can put forth for accessing on-the-job training and employment opportunities once the professionals have gone through the schooling and the training. From the discussions, we will derive from the panelists recommendations and actions that the industry should take to facilitate affordable training and the development of skilled young aviation professionals in Africa. Join me in welcoming our panelists to the session. Our first panelist is Ms. Fadimatu Nchemo-Simo, who is the founder of the Young African Aviation Professional Association, YAPA. Fadi founded YAPA in 2014, which is a non-profit organization to educate youths through communication on aviation careers, as well as tourism, and to create a platform of exchange between aviation stakeholders and the next generation of aviation professionals in Africa. Fadi is a winner of the IATA High Flyer Award in 2019 and the Commonwealth Point of Light Award in the same year. She is instrumental in leadership program and projects, and she was elected for the Global Leadership in International Aviation in 2016. She is a member of Women in Aviation organization, and she actively promotes gender equity across the African continent by advocating for stakeholders to invest more on human capital development through innovative methods in Africa. Our second panelist is Mr. Mesei Shiferau, the Managing Director of Ethiopian Aviation Academy. Mr. Shiferau was appointed to his position in 2020. And we have the next panelist, who is Ms. Adriana Johnson from Collins Aerospace. Ms. Adriana Johnson, she heads the corporate social responsibility at Collins Aerospace, leading the company's STEM education outreach partnerships and programming and corporate charitable giving. The next panelist is Ms. Matheka Kithinji, a lawyer, pilot, and first female weight shift microlight in Africa. Maseka is currently pursuing her commercial pilot license at Wilson Airport in Nairobi. Her experience with microlight flying began in January 2021, and she is gradually progressing. She is a member of the Association of Women in Corporate and Business Aviation, AWICA. AWICA creates a platform and network of women in aviation in Africa, supporting one another. She will also tell us something about this initiative in the panel. Our next panelist is Ms. Anne Nderito, who is the head of operations for Educator Global. Ms. Anne Nderito is a co-founder and chief operations officer at Swift Lab as well. She is working on various drone projects with the aim of improving the lives and communities in Africa. A project in medical deliveries enhances access of healthcare into people living in remote areas. Anne was honored to be named as a Woman to Watch 2020 by Women and Drones. She is an advocate of gender equity. Through her foundation, the Girls Boardroom Foundation, she mentors girls and ladies to take opportunities to grow their careers. Her mission is to create more women leaders and bridge the gap that exists at the top. The panel discussion will be moderated by Ms. Yolanta Strikitsa, who we met yesterday. And Ms. Yolanta is an aviation specialist with over 20 years experience running own businesses, and she also helps developing careers in young talent, including in Africa. I now wish to hand over to our moderator to take off the session. You have the discussion running for the next 50 minutes. Over to you, Yolanta.
Thank you very much, Maureen. And hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am really delighted to have these distinguished panelists with me today. And though Maureen said our panel is the last, it's not the least, because we here have very, very prominent professionals from different angles of education, from the government bodies, from the private companies, from the platforms, from experience of the piloting, all of the different sides of the industry, we have them here. And can I please encourage you, ladies and gentlemen, to take use of this panel, sort of to learn from them, to Google them, to LinkedIn them, to get the questions to them. Because what I'm going to do within this panel is to ask you to file a question to our panel as well. So you can talk to them, not just me can talk to them. Okay, guys, my panel, you all are extremely professional in education. You saw the education from different angles within the globe for your own experience. And what we're going to do, we're going to look at the macro picture and a bigger picture in Africa and in the world through your own experiences and your own vision. But first of all, let me ask you a very simple question. Is there enough professional aviation schools in Africa? Do we have enough schools that can utilize the interest and challenge of this industry and could give the knowledge so much needed to young professionals? Farimatu, can I ask you first this question?
Well, thank you, Yolanta, and thank you, panelists and dear participants. It's a pleasure having the opportunity under the leadership of AFRAA to express what is ongoing in Africa with regards to training. I will say, based on the African statistics on aviation development, the first thing we need to understand is that Africa has 5 regions: Northern Africa, Southern Africa, Eastern Africa, Western Africa, and Central Africa. So the aviation development and needs equally equate the development in each region. East Africa, for example, and Northern Africa with Southern Africa are the leading regions where aviation development has growth. And there they have academies. I'm happy that we have Ethiopian Academy, which I would say is number 1 on the continent, and that has alone the capacity, based on what we have now, to train young Africans. In Kenya, for example, we have the Pride Center. In Northern Africa, we have a lot of institutions. We also have the African Training Organization Association that brings together all the institutions that are capable of training Africans. So based on the development on the continent ongoing, I will say we have the appropriate institutions. The question is, are the young Africans interested in aviation capable of sponsoring themselves to get trained to join the industry? And I would say no. And I would say no, because if I take my region, for example, most of the youths over the past 6-7 years through our outreach activities have grown interest in aviation and want to join the industry. But the cost of training in Ethiopian Academy, for example, is not affordable for everyone, because we have our realities in Africa where most of our parents are low-income earners based on our economies, and aviation training is very expensive. So you have a lot of talented young people who now, because a lot of activities are ongoing on outreach. I'm doing with YAPA. We also have the Girl Fly Program Foundation. We have Dare to Dream. We have ongoing activities across the continent over the past 5 years. But these youths now who are aware about the opportunities, who have the schools, have the funding challenge of going into this school. So I would say Africa, yes, based on the 3 main regions, has the appropriate institutions. And the focus of the youth now is how do I get the funds to be trained?
Thank you very much, Fatimatu. I just want to catch straight away your ball, what you just throw into the Aviation Academy being expensive. Yeah, that's very interesting. And though on the other hand, you mentioned that the Aviation Academy is one of the best schools. And I fully agree that Africa is a huge continent with so many different regions. So, Mesei, are you expensive academy? Are you affordable academy? Are you the best academy? What would you say? Mesei? Hello, you here with us?
As you have mentioned it, sorry, actually, I was on mute, and thank you for giving me the opportunity. And when assessing actually education, as you are aware, aviation by nature, it is capital intensive and everything is expensive. Like say, when we train, we need aircraft, we need infrastructure, including runway, simulation, and many things are required. So when we say that we are expensive or cheaper, it all depends on how your business model is established.
Yes.
Actually,
yes.
If you actually agree on quality, then you cannot compromise with money.
Yes.
But if you are comparing it with income of our community and society, it could be unaffordable. So that we understand actually in that perspective. And when we established the academy, it is established under the airline. And also that most Ethiopians, as you know, that is one of the poorest country in the continent and globally. So that means with the rate what we have, it is not affordable. But what we do is we train them and we just make sure that they are committing to serve the airline. So this is how we arrange it. So the airline is investing a huge money to train the future aviators. So generally, your question initially is that whether we have enough training center in the continent, the answer is in short, no. According to our assessment, because currently Africa deserves more connectivity among African states. And I don't think that we have enough flag carriers in the continent. And also the social and economic integration all depend on how we give a priority on aviation. But that is not yet a priority for most governments because they have various issues on their table than giving a priority to aviation. So I think we have to make it open to everybody, but how? We should see that for a financing means, maybe on long-term loan with reduced loan, because it is a big profession. Anyone who is just being trained as an aviator will have here or there a quality job and they have to pay it back. So this is how we work, including Ethiopian Airlines and other maybe like shipping lines in Ethiopia. As you know that we are a poor nation, but the only thing that once they are trained, they will be in a position to pay back whatever debt they have. So I think we have to look in how we can finance from government, from say financial institutions, which they are currently giving a priority on some areas of investment, and also other aid organizations globally, so that to give some share for aviation development in Africa. So in our view, yes, we have to make it available to everybody at affordable rate. That is relative. But the only thing is that we need to create aviators with whatever resource available so that they will be responsible to pay back, because the future aviators next after them also will take that opportunity with such a kind of revolving fund. So that's what we do with us. And we are not more focused on how much we sell the training, but rather we have to make sure that where we are creating the right aviators in place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, very interesting dilemma. You see, guys, we already kind of opening the Pandora box that, yes, there is people there is funding. Funding enough or not enough. There is a business that needs to put some business priority, but the business also have some social responsibility among the people, among the nations. And the continent is very big. Some people say that there's enough schools, some people say they don't. So let's just listen to somebody who already went through this training. Maseka, you got the pilot license on PPL, you studied towards your commercial license. What about your experience? Yeah, sort of how difficult or how easy was it for you to find the school, and what you will reflect to this opening dilemma of getting the right finances?
Thank you so much, Stricta, for that question. I think to just dive right into it, I would express, just as the other panelists, how hard that journey has been. I think when we speak about careers in aviation, there's a glamorous picture painted of it where you're going to flight school, maybe you'll take 6 months to do your first license, maybe 18 months for your second, get your rating, and immediately, get a job. But when I was actually doing some research based on this, I saw that these trends are most common in Western countries because of the avenues available to students. So something that has been mentioned here before is, student loans, enough scholarships and aid available to either people studying in Europe or in America or in Australia. So there are enough avenues to support somebody straight from high school through their training, but come to Africa. And of course, the economic realities that we're faced with. An individual leaves school, maybe has gone through entire public school. They cannot afford this. You can't tell maybe possibly a high school student to, have access to a loan. And specifically, here in Kenya, there are no scholarships available, whether it is ground school or a few flight hours for anybody who could, possibly get into aviation. Yes, there's the option of Pride Center, but it's highly competitive. And I also think to some extent it's very narrowing because aviation has so many different options. So you don't necessarily have to be an airline pilot, but you can enter into general aviation, such as a relief pilot, a bush pilot, a conservation pilot. But if you do not have the funds, it basically limits you to, one specific area that you're competing for with thousands of, individuals in the country. Another disparity that I saw is abroad and in Western countries, there are enough and many airlines, especially in Europe, that offer these programs of, you go in through their training straight from, high school, and you're able to be trained and you're able to pay back the airline for the training that they've taken you through. But then again, narrowing it down to Africa, Eastern Africa, Kenya, and Ethiopia, these are only 2 airlines. I'm not sure if Egypt Air, has the same program, but there are very, very few. So the options available for funding.
To ask them, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Yeah,
the options.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, great. So the options available for funding for an individual, either from high school or even after degree level, is extremely limiting, and because of regulations, stifling to some extent. So personally for me, it has been a challenge. It continues to be a challenge, especially when it comes to our building. And I think I'll just mention that once I began my training in 2017, it was about 14,000, 15,000 Kenya shillings per hour. But right now in 2021, we're at 17,000, some schools, 18,000 Kenya shillings per hour. And that's just on a small, Cessna that one pays this exorbitant amounts for. So the price keeps going higher and higher because of fuel costs, because of new regulations put in place. And once you go and tell people, join the aviation career, the first, as you said, question is, I can't afford it. And one is not able to marry where somebody is and the costs available. So I definitely echo what the panelists say about the expense of it. But I think maybe I'll mention later that I do believe quality can still be maintained in training and a high level of training, but still affordable. There can still be affordability. Something that's affordable doesn't mean the quality, is reduced. So yes, that is what I'd say to that.
Yes, well, thank you. Because first I was thinking, oh, well, no, there's not so much doom and gloom, and yeah, there's supposed to be a bright side. So it's very good that and then you said it's in fact it's possible. That is a challenge. You see, we kind of putting sort of everything on the one needle. Sort of we're getting a nice understanding that schools available. People really want to go to school. Sometimes schools are better, sometimes schools are a bit not that good, but there is a star schools on the continent. There's possibly more schools needed. But the problem is finances and problem is employment. Anne, can I get to you in terms of the educated global? You guys trying to challenge the affordability and availability of STEM education, because aviation is not just pilots, yes, it's mechanical engineering, STEM education, and you're based in UK and Kenya. So you kind of try to, I guess, help, with that. Can you add on the subject of affordability and how do you see educator working on that?
Thank you so much for that question. On the side of engineering and the technical skills, it's I believe it's a kind of a different problem that we are tackling, because when it comes to engineering courses, myself, I underwent through aerospace engineering here in Kenya. And the main problem is you find that the schools are not well equipped to train engineers, and most of the classes are, majorly theoretical. Mm-hmm. So you come and you do a lot of mathematical expressions and questions, everything, but you really don't get to interact with the actual aircraft that you'll be servicing or that you'll be building in the future. So it creates a very big gap. It creates a very big gap, so the students are not impacted with the right skills that the employers actually need. So, and that's one way we are trying to, that's one of the challenges that we're trying to help in as Educator Global. So we want to ensure that students get a lot of work experience as they learn, because that will definitely help them. They also get to understand what skills that their employers looking for. So even when they're in class, they get to interact with the teacher in a much better way. So, and with that, we've been trying to bridge the gap. We bring in industry partners so that they can give opportunities. So that they can give these opportunities to students during their holidays. They come to the industry, to the company, they work for a few weeks before they go back to school. And that really opens up the minds of the young people, and it's a whole different story after that.
Yeah, but do you also show them possible like grants or financial tools, or sort of do you help them in terms of getting the financial help?
The financial help,
not really.
Not really.
Not really an educator.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah. So it's been majorly providing the platform to to interact with the industry. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. It just anyway sort of helps guys and girls to meet the industry. Yeah, sort of to face that, to solve this problem, that future, at least in the future, they know sort of where to go and how to tackle that. Yes, sort of, we get into all the sort of these areas of questions together. And I want to get into Adriana, because you and me, we're looking into Africa, of course, from outsider point of view. The guys and ladies inside, and they know everything what's going on the side. We're looking from outside. And all of the speakers already mentioned that, yeah, okay, Western Europe and America perhaps sort of don't understand sort of what's Africa needs, and sort of maybe not all of the program what's available in Western Europe or US available in Africa. So what Collins Airspace have for African youth in terms of the education, in terms of the grants, in terms of financing? What corporate social responsibilities, how the corporate social responsibilities involved of the Collins Airspace involved in the African programs? Adriana.
Thank you, Yolanta. So I will say we are a global company. We have 300 sites across the globe, and we primarily focus on communities where we can engage our employees. We don't want to just provide the funding, right, to an organization or to students, but we want to make sure that the students are connecting back to our employees and they're getting that mentorship as well. And so that's why, and I would say this is very common amongst my industry peers, that we really focus in areas where we have a larger presence, but then we also make sure that we're sponsoring and working with global organizations on getting young students interested at a very young age, starting at age 4. I mean, we mentioned high school, but to us, high school is too late. We need to start going even sooner. So even at the start of the age 4, getting them interested in engineering and technology programs, and then keeping that pipeline moving. So, you know, they go into ages 4, go on into middle school, secondary, post-secondary, to make sure that there's a pipeline of programs to keep them engaged, because this is not a this is the solution, it's going to be fixed tomorrow. We understand it's very, very long-term solution to get young students, especially low-income students, access and knowledge about these programs, and their parents. That's also half the battle of this. You know, these are programs available. These are the income that comes with this. And here's, if you get into our facilities, right, or into our companies, here's all of the education that we can pay for you to continue your education. So that, again, it's very focused per community. And then again, a program I would say that is very near and dear to Collins Aerospace is called First Robotics. And it's very accessible to young students. And I know it's available in Africa. And so if you have not heard of it, please do. And there's plenty, please look into it. And there's plenty of funding opportunities that they offer. And they partner with several industries and they're actually one of the largest global scholarship programs. They didn't even mean to be that, but it just so happened because there's so many. Industry sees the kids that come out of these programs and they say, we want them. Those are the kids that we want. So they're definitely, and they partner with universities as well. So not to toot their horn too much, but it's a wonderful program. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah, well, that's great. You see, communication, yes, that we need to put the message through, and that's another thing that I think sort of we're missing in the aviation generally globally, and it's very good that AFRAA is doing this conference. Right, okay, guys, so we have a dilemma, yeah? So we have young and proactive youth who wants to study aviation in Africa. That needs additional funding, and we do have some programs available, we do have schools available, but how to match them together? Fadimatou, you're currently in France, you said, yeah? Fadimatou, are you here?
Fadi, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry.
Fadi?
Yes, I'm on a short visit in France, so
yes, that's great. You said that you're in France. So you work in the Pan-African level. You also work in communication with Europe, in communication with the world. So you see at different countries in terms of how these countries help in the education in aviation, if they help financially or not. So do you think that, for example, African governments do enough in terms of the helping funds, helping education facilities, or helping youth with the funding the education, looking from the African point of view and also looking from the West European point of view? Do you think that West European governments should add more into help, for example, French government into French-speaking Africa, or English government, American government into the American-speaking Africa? Do you think the actual sort of the governments, the countries, they locally and globally do enough in terms of the assisting African education financially?
Now, this is a very good question, because I've had the opportunity to go across the globe with regards to trying to change the policies in place, because, you know, it's very difficult for people to be out of the African continent, not even understanding the differences of the 5 regions in Africa, and trying to make global processes and procedures to implement. I'm lucky that we have Ethiopia and Kenya on board, but their vision, I will just ask a quick question for us to be in an interactive way. Who amongst you have been to Cameroon? I mean, I just want an indication. Who amongst you have been to Cameroon? Okay. Okay, no. I've been in Ethiopia, I've been in Kenya, I've been in East Africa, I've been in all the regions of Africa. And that's why I say there is supposed to be an understanding of the differences that exist, because Kenya, Ethiopia, Rwanda have academies that are outgrowing. But I come from a region of 6 countries, and we don't have proper academies. We don't have a grown system of aviation. And so when we go, I have been a member of the ICAO NGAP since 2014, volunteering on sharing the best practices on what is being done across the globe. So that difference made us understand that even the strategies put in place to fund aviation education is wrong. Things needs to be changed. Because if we look at ICAO, the members of ICAO sponsor through the African Civil Aviation Organizations. So that restricts, and only if you are employed or recommended by the African Civil Aviation of your country, then you can benefit from this. Same for the others. If it's IATA, for example, the scholarships are being given through the airlines that operate. But these youths who are young graduates, these youths who are in universities who wants to seize the opportunities, what is being done for them? So the whole world, the global strategy on developing aviation as an industry and not as regions is to see what can be done in transparency, because the digital nature of the world today helps us make young people anywhere they are see the opportunities that exist. So my word and message to the stakeholders globally, worldwide, is to reposition aviation as an industry that is actually the pivot for all other industries. Because if today I have to come to London or the US, I go through the airline, through the airport, and these are the jobs that most of the African countries need to develop and make available for the young Africans. So if you want to talk about the funds are there, but the funds are not there for the public. The strategies, the policies that are being put in place need to be rechanged. The African Union in its Agenda 2063 has brought in steps for the development, for the hope of young Africans to understand that we are the emerging continent. Now, we will not repeat what is being done in the developing countries. I will take the example of France. France is #1 in Europe with its aviation sector. So we were about 3,000 participants in this summit, and I had the privilege to talk directly to the president in 1 second. And what I told him was, I believe that France has to reposition its aviation industry with the opportunities in reviewing the policy on how we getting young Africans get into the global industry, which is aviation. And he looked at me and I said, I had to go through an airport, buy a ticket, go through an airport, come to France through an airport, fly in an aircraft. When you just see all the opportunities with regards to aviation for the young Africans in that sector, that is the only way we as an industry need to stand up. So we don't have to limit ourselves again on just working with the normal norms of going through governments or institutions. We have as an industry to stand up. If Rockwell Collins has a strategy to penetrate Africa, they have the choice and possibility to build a medium, long-term plan where through transparency, they will make scholarship applications affordable. Because one other aspect we suffer from is the intellectual corruption. People will always want to have the information to send to their cousin, the nephew. No, we urge aviation stakeholders, governments globally, investing in aviation to put transparency, to sign contracts with academies like Ethiopian, for example, and say, okay, for this year, we're going to sponsor 10 Africans from the 5 regions in a transparent way. There we will be able to give equal opportunities to anyone. That's my say.
Yeah, that's absolutely great. I fully agree with you. But just a very sort of last confirmation. For example, in Cameroon, say just take the Cameroon or Western Africa. If I'm a school, aviation school, is it possible for me to go to the government and apply for funding to help me to run the school?
No, that doesn't exist. We don't have loans where a student can decide to go. So what I'm doing with the others is to try to urge academies like Ethiopian Airlines, Pride Center, to also be in direct contact with stakeholders like Rockwell Collins. So if Rockwell Collins, Airbus, Boeing, name them, if they really want to help young Africans, then they need to review the policies where we have three-party agreements. They sign with the school on the amount, and then they support in the transparent selection of candidates for the industry.
But
then
maybe
ensure there will be equal opportunities.
But you said very interesting things about the France and sort of this connection, and I just want to catch on this if possible. I get to catch the ball from you, Fatima. Maybe it is because the world doesn't know enough about the opportunities in Africa and possibilities in Africa. So how is the what is the export potential of education? For example, you already mentioned the Ethiopian Academy. Is the Ethiopian Academy good enough for the world? Does it have expert? Messay, do you train people from Western Europe, for example, or from Eastern Europe that can go ahead and sort of spread the message?
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
Who can go? I just ask the question to Messay, if they have export potential, if the academy train people from outside Africa who can go in the world and spread the message about the potential of Africa. Because again, we already said about the communication may be broken, the knowledge may be broken. Sort of maybe the world, the international governments don't know about the possibilities of Africa.
No, they know, and they have put their own policies, but their policies are not working. What I'm saying is, in Africa, we have a long history. In 2019, the African Civil Aviation Organization celebrated its 50th anniversary. So that's just an indication that aviation has been existing in Africa, and we just need to review how the packages are being put into the country, into the continent. If we really want, as an industry, as I still say, if we really want to, because when I am in France today, when I meet the stakeholders, Airbus, I visited Airbus, they're already talking about future aircrafts with the reduction of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. But if we count the number of successful airlines in Africa, we are far behind. So if we think about an industry and we want to bring in inclusion in our diversity on how we want the sector to be developed worldwide, then it's high time we review our approaches and redefine partnerships and collaborations to ensure that we save our industry. Be it in Africa, Europe, we have to stand together. Africa doesn't manufacture any aircraft, any engine, anything. But we have the fast growing population that can serve as a brain for the development of the sector. So the question is, how do we redesign to ensure that in transparency, the policies in place meet the need ongoing? And that's why I say we need to identify per region what needs to be done, and the conversation needs to be put in place through organizations like AFRAA, AFCAC, any other organization, to know that we as an industry want to develop, and these are the partnerships that we are putting together. For me, Ethiopian Academy is very qualified. I mean, I don't doubt it, because they benefit from the expertise from outside also. So we don't automatically need people to come from outside to upgrade the standards of training. No, we just need to bring in possibilities for this young population that is trying to leave the continent because they don't believe that they have hope here, to understand that there is need, and this is where aviation has all the potential for its future growth.
Yes, Fatimatu, and I think that you again saying very right thing about the being united in the approach. You need to think alike and communicate, and get people to listen to you, not just listen, but also to hear you, to sort of hear the message. And for that, you have to be united. I guess AFRAA is doing a very good job on that. Messay, can I get back to you, please? And still talk about money a little bit. Yeah, money is, well, hello, Messay, are you here? Yes, yeah, okay. Messay? Hello?
Your mic.
Messay? Right, okay, well, while Messay is getting back to us, Maseka, you got a scholarship from Danube University in Austria, haven't you?
Yes, that's true.
Okay, so you are example of the African youth that look outside of Africa for education, who got a grant from West European university to study. It's something what we just been discussed with Farima too, that the local governments not really sort of listening to the industry, not helping the industry. Why you choose this university? How easy or how difficult was to get the grants? And would you be rather staying in Africa if the local grants would have been available?
Thank you so much for that question. My story in getting this scholarship is actually quite interesting. I think I just need to set off that this is not a government grant from the Austrian government, but was specifically from the university, yes. In particular. So to begin with personally, I managed to get this scholarship through attending a conference. It was an AFRAA conference, and I guess this is also to encourage my young professionals to network with whoever, with whoever is at a conference. Even though this is virtually, please reach out. So I simply did that. I attended an AFRAA conference. I enjoyed going through the different regulations with a guest speaker, who is actually my master thesis professor, Wolf Müller. I exchanged contacts with him, and I kept in touch with him on email, asking several questions because I am very interested in aviation law. He sparked my interest and told me, are you doing anything to further your studies from what you already have? Because I have a degree and diploma in law in Kenya. And I expressed that I'm not, but I'm really interested to learn more about the aviation space. He told me that there's a program that's run at Danube University in Austria. A scholarship is available, but one would need to apply and wait for a response. And I thought, why not? I'm really interested to understand the sector more, rather than what is shown to the world, as it's been discussed in other panelists and interviews, that the world is, when you speak aviation, you just see pilots and cabin crew. But when you actually look into aviation, you realize there are air traffic controllers, ground handlers. When it comes to the side of the airline, there are managers, there are customer care managers. There's so many people involved to just make the industry run. And there's so many career opportunities that I personally had no clue about before I began studying my master's. So by God's grace, I applied and I got the scholarship, and it has been an amazing experience. And I'm really looking forward to now learning practically what happens on ground, because I really believe what happens in the books and in reality, there's a bit of a disparity there, but that is a really great start. So there was no, like I've mentioned, there was no government support on my end. However, I'm aware that the same or similar program is offered here in Kenya under the East Africa School of Aviation, which I do believe is quite equipped to, train different individuals on the different professions. But I personally wanted to study my master's abroad in order to get a broader perspective of what aviation is and what is working outside that can be brought, back home, because I'm a true patriotic individual. So happy Mashujaa Day to my Kenyan citizens. But I strongly believe that we can get the skills and be equipped with the information that we need from, developed countries and bring them back home. So whatever information that I learn or wherever I study, it's not for me to now use the skills to develop other, countries, but to come back home and expose, my fellow colleagues on what they can study and develop now the aviation industry in Kenya. So that is why I would really advocate to broaden one's study scope, but most importantly, keeping your African country at heart in order to come and develop it. Yes.
Yes, that's great. I mean, yeah, absolutely great. And I'm really glad you touched on something what I also want to raise just slightly later, but I also want to raise about knowledge transfer. Yes, but how we ourselves get the information, how we learn things, and how we transfer the knowledge further down, yeah? And Anne, I'm here to you because again, educator and you in person trying to encourage young ladies through the platform. How do you see the knowledge transfer from your personal experience, sort of how you was getting this knowledge? How do you transfer knowledge within the being head of operations educator and helping the ladies? And do you see if any companies encouraging sort of to bring more knowledge into the younger generation? And
okay, thank you so much, Lanta, for the question. First of all, I have to concur with Fadi sentiments on the issue of Africa not being, a manufacturing continent. We are hugely a consuming continent, especially when it comes to technology, which is a sad story, saying how well how well we are equipped as a continent. We have very bright minds, I believe so, and it's only that our systems are not in place, and they really are not supporting the bigger goal of what we want. I would say there are few programs that are trying to, transfer skills. I would just point out one in the drone industry, because that's where I am. And it's called African Drone and Data Academy. Established, I think last year. I started last year and supported by UNICEF. UNICEF. It's right now. It's based in Malawi, and it's a very comprehensive program that equips students with not only drone flying skills, but also design, build, regulations, skills in the drone industry. So by the time you're done with the 10 weeks program, you are ready to. You are very developed mind to bring solutions to the industry. And I was lucky that I was in the first cohort last year, just before COVID, and later on went on and found CFLAB. So such programs, I believe, are very good in transferring the technical skills to the young people. And they will encourage, more people to start their own companies, to build technologies that can also be exported to the world, because I believe as Africa, we can.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I fully agree that Africa has very, very bright minds. Well, again, it's such a huge continent, such different cultures. Yeah, sort of, it's a long flight from Joburg to Cairo. So you have really sort of interesting opportunities and interesting possibilities, and really need more investment, into the actual production. And I think what you guys do in STEM and encouraging STEM education needs more development and more money. Yeah. So we will touch on private capital after I get some questions from the audience, because I see already Maureen sending me messages that we have questions from the audience. Maureen, over to you. What questions do we have?
Thank you, Yolanta. And as I mentioned, how many questions we have, we also are supposed to be winding up in the next 5-7 minutes or so. So we have a couple of questions, and the first one is specifically to ET Academy. So what is ET Academy doing to address the issue of financing in aviation training? What are the options available to youth who wish to go through the academy but are short on financial resources? That's the first question. Second question is, what can be done tangibly to avail on the job training opportunities to youth? The same question on job openings. How can be done to avail job openings, which are very hard to come across, as some of our panelists may attest. So over to you.
Okay, yeah, that's very interesting questions. And yes, sort of 5 minutes is not enough. So let's just start from the question to Ethiopian Academy. Yeah, please, Mesei, if you can answer that. Oh, Mesei cannot hear us. I'm very sorry, Maureen, but most probably Mesei wouldn't be able to answer. I'm very sorry, Mesei, that you experienced any problems. So yeah, guys, in this case, panel, who wants to go on the second question?
Sorry, Trista, Masay has just written the response to the question on the chat. I don't know if you have access or you would prefer if I read out his response.
Yeah, please go ahead, please.
Okay, so Masay's response to the question is, as I explained earlier, currently we are trying to avail finance for Ethiopian nationals as there is no other option. But when we enlarge the concept to the continent, as the panelists put it, it requires to revisit the arrangement where it should be discussed at AU level. Countries should first understand the priority not to leave the burden how are operated on global financing borrowings. The job training is also to be a part of the training to make sure the aviators to be in good position in the global market.
Great, Maseka, thank you very much. Very well done on this side. But guys, yes, Elsa, who wants to go on the second question? Adriana, maybe you?
Well, I can add to what Masay is saying and to what Fadi is saying, who I think we're all Fadi fans now with everything she's been saying today. But basically, this is not, and this will even lead to the job openings question, but this is not a solution that only Ethiopian schools can solve, or only industry can solve, or only the NGOs can solve, right? This is, we all have to work together, just like that Fadi was saying. And so when we have to create an ecosystem of both all industry and the schools and government and these associations like AFRAA. They all have to come together and have meetings together and discuss, what can we do? We all have to understand the problem and have the solutions, right? Like, we're working together. We can't be pointing fingers and saying, this is your problem. These are the students' problems. These are the parents' problems, right? So all of those people have to be represented. And then once we have all of that, I think the job, and we have solutions and programmings put into place. And Africa is a huge continent, as we said, right? So it has to start smaller and grow as we get the buy-in and foundations built to make sure that this is a viable option for industry to come in and have the job openings, right? So I know that doesn't really answer the question, but it's I think everything that we're all saying summed up.
Yeah, well,
I would like to add. Yeah, I would like to add to that question. I believe one way governments and other policymakers in Africa may want to consider is apprenticeship systems, because that is not really available in most African countries, but it has worked in other developed countries. And it's a very good program where, you know, the students gets on-job training,
yes,
as they study, you know. So that gives them more opportunities, more skills, and also an easy transition, because, you know, maybe the company that you're already working with may just prefer to hire you. So creates more opportunities for the young people.
Yes. May I just suggest that perhaps after think about the whole separate event that covers and touches the question of employability, of retention, of management, because this is a very, very hot question. And I'm a headhunter for more than 20 years. I work with aviation industry for more than 20 years, including in Africa. And I can tell you guys that this topic have been always a difficult topic. Yeah, it's always very difficult to find a job. Just to sum up before, because I was told there's only 5 minutes left. So just to sum up, that Generation Z have a very different view on what they need and how they look into the employability. Can I ask sort of 2 questions to each of you? 1 question each. So what is your, first of all, advice and recommendation? Well, like just Adriana said, the communication, talking together to move forwards on the question of financing, employability, accessibility. And what is your personal recommendation to a younger fellow who wants to go into the education aviation? What should they do? Since we with Anne, can I start with you, Anne?
Yes, thank you so much. I believe there are different ways of or many recommendations that we can suggest today. But one is that right now women are very highly underrepresented in the aviation industry, and we need to bring that up. Like, I don't think we have an option. We need to bring that up, and I've seen that even in emerging industries like the drone industry, which is fairly young. I would expect that, you know, because right now the gender equality is getting better, but when it comes to STEM related or aviation related industry, the gender equality doesn't get any better. So more better systems. Maybe we encourage our younger sisters, you know, our daughters to get into this industry. I also believe we need more mentorship and such initiatives like this. It's very important for, you know, students, younger people to interact with the people who are already working in the industry and get a different perspective of what is working and what is not. So to a younger person, yeah, get a mentor, talk to someone, as Maseka has just said, you know, interact with other people. You just never know when that opportunity will strike.
Good. Yes, gender equality, mentorship, perfect. Adriana, what else can you add to what you already said about the communication? What else can you add?
So this, you know, it's a growing field, definitely, and we need to I just can't say it, communicate and just continue to engage like these organizations like Anne. We have to find more of them, and we have to start much younger. You know, women in STEM and aviation, it's dismal, and so not only do we have to encourage all young, but especially low income and women and young girls to go into these types of fields and show them how it's changing lives and that there are opportunities, right? So we need to highlight all the opportunities and then encourage them to come back. If they go, come back. They leave the country, come back to their home and make sure that they're building there.
Yeah, very important, repatriation. Thank you. So communication, repatriation, and the younger age. Very good. Maseka, any suggestions from you? What the industry action needs to be taken?
Yes, thank you. I think I'm just going to echo what Fadi said. I'm also a strong supporter of Fadi in this panel.
We're all here, yes.
Exactly. But I really think, to keep it short, we really need government support and coming together. There's a lack of, there's a huge lack of support. I think I can just speak for Kenya because that's where I'm from the government in supporting training. I understand that in developing countries, the economy, there's such more demanding issues. But if we state that there's a need for pilots, there's a gap for pilots and personnel in the aviation sector, but we're doing nothing about it in the training level. You know, what is going to happen when the aviation industry recovers and we have expired licenses, other individuals in other sectors? That's simply going to bring, you know, the developing curve of the aviation industry further down when maybe it was on a progressive level. So we need intervention and active participation from the regulator. Just a quick example would be subsidies possibly offered to training institutions. The cost that goes into training, you know, as a school would, you know, be the landing fees, the high cost of fuel, the parking fees. How about lowering some of those fees because they understand that these are young individuals in training rather than the business aspect to it. So I really believe that if we have more government support into our training institutions, it would really evolve and support and encourage, you know, more young individuals to get into this space. And actually one time when I was speaking at another conference, an individual said, it's not about being encouraged into this sector, it's the money. So that really just made me keep quiet really quickly because as we said, the cost is a really huge problem. But this, on the second point, onto my fellow colleagues, even though I'm able to be at the place that I am, I still see myself as developing with so many years ahead of me. But the two principles, or rather the three principles that have kept me going are prayer, passion, and patience. Prayer, because sometimes you're walking in faith, in training. You're not sure where the funds will come in, you're not sure where the connection will come, but prayer, passion. If you're passionate about this industry, it doesn't matter how long it takes for you to go through your training or to get where you need to be, but the passion will sustain you. And finally, patience, because it definitely takes time, to get what you want. And as I think you had mentioned earlier, as a Gen Z, the Gen Z generation is perhaps what my mom calls a microwave generation, where we want to do something.
Yes, of course, you are typical Gen Z, I would say.
Exactly. So patience. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Can you do me a huge favor and read the Messay answers? Again, I think he wrote something very valuable.
Yes. Yeah. So Messay says,
if you permit, can I just read it out, because I will add my conclusion to what he has said? Okay, if you all agree. So Messay says it should fall under AU 50-year strategy of human resource development, as this is not an option for African. I think it is good to make it an agenda item at states level, so that to have a clear modality on how we can align resources to create opportunity for the youth in Africa. So I go in line with what he's just said, and there is one key point we need to put in place. We as aviation industry should also be the ones to train the governments on understanding our importance, because it doesn't matter what we will say and expect governments are not aviation experts. So we have to take the responsibility as the aviation industry to strategize on how, through outreach activities, government specialized. I know there are initiatives ongoing. Funke of IATA has been doing a lot. I mean, she is my inspiration because she goes out all the time to talk about this. But more needs to be done, because we need, in our respective fields in aviation, to train our governments, without forgetting that the government is not a person, because people change all the time. So we need, as an industry, to make sure that we get a source of outreach or mentorship of those who are the leaders. We should make our voices known to the world that we as aviation, we are a business of freedom, linking people and places any point in time. And until we find a way to make it and make it fair, then that will be automatically implemented in the new policies for the new generations. So that's my say. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Fadima, too, because I just wanted really you to summarize and sort of add this up. As usual, you're brilliant in that. And as already every panel said, we're a big fan of you. But yes, I fully agree. I fully agree that this is something what aviation industry in Africa has to do, to take everything in your own hands. Yeah. I come from Eastern Europe, and we have a saying that when your eyes are afraid, your hands are doing. Yeah. So I think that African industry, in a way, needs to do the same. When your eyes are afraid and think that, okay, governments are not helping us, we don't have enough finance, or we don't have enough whatever, your hands start doing this. Yeah. Sort of, you start making things. So I think that all of us, yeah, all sort of need to communicate and do things together, to look into the gender, into the mentorship, into communication, into the young generation, in being local and global, and of course, being responsible. So on that, if I can thank you very much, thank Messay. I'm sorry that you was not listening, you was with us, you was with our hearts. Fadima too, Maseka, and Adriana, and my humble self. Thank you very much, guys.
Very able panelists and able moderator for tackling the subject at hand. I know we've gone overboard with time, but it was worth the while. We have picked a number of recommendations and actions, which I will be presenting at the concluding ceremony that is going to take place after the next presentation, which is the last presentation of the day. So we'll swiftly move on to the last presentation by Prodigy on what they are doing to achieve cost-effective training solutions to meet Africa's needs. So see you at the next session. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks a lot. Very good talking to you.
Thank you, London.
Thank you so much. That was really great.
Yes.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, I'll try to connect you all on LinkedIn.
Yes, please do so.
Okay.
Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Oops.